So one of the greatest challenges in running data centers and large compute is fundamentally about power. You know, whether or not you're building out $1 billion data center or you're just renting 5 racks from a service provider, how much compute you can get in a specific power envelope is the challenge. You know, power is the binding constraint in building out these data centers. And the questions, there are macro level questions like how do I build a data center close enough to the grid to get access to the amount of power that I want? There's the question of how do I reduce the amount of power that an individual server consumes? And there's also the challenge of how do I reduce the amount of power that I'm spending on cooling? And there are various approaches to that. But one of the most interesting ones is the growth in the area of high density computing. So this is where you're taking effectively the processor from a phone and you're putting it in very, very high density into racks that allow you to build out 200, 500, and we'll get to the point where we're doing over 1,000 cores in a single rack. There are some other interesting challenges or opportunities that this brings up from an operating system and from a hardware perspective. So we're going to see people, we think, increasingly playing with the fabric of the system on the chip that will allow them, for example, to put lots of memory very close to CPUs, which if you look at things like big data workloads where you're using Hadoop, the ability to have very high I/O on to memory is a huge advantage. There'll be people playing with the ability to turn off nodes so that when the server is running on idle or partially on idle, you can simply close down 50, 60% of the nodes, and that just brings your idle power right down. And there are also compute tasks about how to fully leverage this massively multi-nodal compute environment. So, you know, we're very excited about the area. We're convinced that we'll see both ARM and, frankly, x86 processors in here. There's some really interesting collaboration going on between Intel and SeaMicro at the moment, between Calxeda and ARM, and we're already seeing some of the very big Web 2.0 properties experiment with this type of compute. So it's a very interesting area, and it's certainly one that we see Ubuntu Server being part of.